Yo, what's going on, you guys? Back with another YouTube video for today. Took a few days off, wasn't really participating in the market, as well as some bad PA. But today is Tuesday, October 7th. I took 2 trades this morning, one on stream, one after stream. I'm 2 for 2 on the day with runner and BE stops. I'll get into those trades here in a minute. Let's go over some analysis for the day, what we expected coming into the morning, what the morning delivered like, and then as well as the trades. So appreciate you guys tuning in for another video. Let's get right into it. All right, you guys, you know that the majority of the times I start my day on the hourly chart before market opens. I'm looking at hourly PD arrays, hourly liquidity, and anything on the higher time frame that can give me the narrative of the next 1 or 2 hourly candles so that I can catch the expansion of those candles. The main thing that stuck out to me this morning was this bearish S&C with YM at these highs that we had created. Okay, so here is NQ rating this previous high, and here's YM. Obviously, YM had weakness overall. It did not rate this high, so I kept in mind, yes, we have been at all-time high. Yes, the majority of these sessions have been bullish, even though we have been rating highs, but we have a bearish S&C, so that is something that I need to consider. As you can see here on NQ, we had a very high resistance liquidity run to the upside, right? And what I mean by that is every time we create a new high, we come right back into the range, okay? We're not creating any failure swings. And what I mean by that, when speaking of high resistance versus low resistance liquidity runs, a low resistance liquidity run has a move to the upside, retracements in forms of failure swings, and then it slices right through that. So every one of these highs that you see here that is generated is a form of resting liquidity, right? And so in the retracement back into some higher time frame PD array, it has all these orders at each and every point of liquidity where it slices through and gathers all those orders when it delivers back for more continuation. What we're seeing with price is the complete opposite, which makes for terrible price runs. So we create a high, a new high, deliver lower, a new high, right? And so every time that we're creating higher, we're taking liquidity from that, and we're not generating anything. So it's difficult price runs to the upside. You don't want to see high resistance liquidity, but with that in mind here, that every time that we were taking a high, we would come back into the range. Us taking this high coming into the morning session told me there's a high probability that we're going to come back into the range, right? Every time that we took liquidity, we came back into it. So keeping that in mind, that we just took the high coming into the AM session, as well as this bearish S&C, all I needed was just a little bit more information to try and catch a short setup, right? As you know, I always dive down to the lower time frame going into market open. So mainly I was set on the 15-minute chart coming into the day. Why I was on the 15-minute chart is because I was looking at these most recent high that we took, okay? And I wanted to see the reaction from that, okay? As you can see, we traded into it, came right back into the range. We did have a couple fair value gaps within that price leg that traded into the high, and I was bearish until proven wrong, okay? So that bearish S&C and that we had rated the previous daily high, I was bearish until proven wrong. What would prove me wrong? What would tell me that price wants to expand more to the upside? Obviously, we had this 15-minute BISI that we could support, right? But I am not going to take a setup within the price leg that delivers into the 15-minute BISI, because if I took a loss on that, I would say, wow, well, we took major liquidity. We had an S&T with YM, right? So what I would need from NQ is delivery above this high, more expansion to then catch the next retracement, right? In the conditions of this move to the upside here, I would need ES and YM and NQ to trade higher. Since ES and NQ were a lot more correlated, I would need both of them to take this high and then both of them to retrace to expand higher. And I would want both of them to be taking the levels of liquidity at the same time, right? How that would look on YM, given the bearish S&C and the weakness, YM would have traded to these equal highs and expand above it to target this as well, right? Obviously, we didn't get that, and that bearish S&C held, okay? But since we didn't get that, and since we weren't getting that during this congestion here, I dropped down to the lower time frame in which I had charted this 5-minute SIBI, right? So yes, we were in between a 15-minute BISI and a 5-minute SIBI. I was looking at the price, how we kept rejecting, creating all these wicks. The bodies were not even trading into CE of this fair value gap. So it told me a little bit more of a bearish bias than a bullish bias, okay? So in terms of the butter me up model, we have the higher time frame PD array, SMT, lower time frame inverse. Okay, so we had the SMT with conditions with YM. This 5 minute could be our higher time frame PD array, and then we had another internal SMT here. Okay, so we had the external SMT followed by the internal SMT. Pairing those two together often makes for high probability entries, no matter the choppiness of the PA, no matter the conditions of the market, right? So given the SMTs, given the 5 minute SIBI here, I then drilled down to a lower time frame to see if we had a lower time frame inverse within the delivery of this wick of the up close candle, which provided that bearish SMT. As you can see here, I drilled down to the 1 minute. Here's our 5 minute SIBI. Here's our 1 minute inverse. I use this 1 minute inverse here as my short setup, okay? As you can see here, we traded below it, closed back into it, and then expanded lower. How my trade looked on this, and I'll pop up my executions in a second here. Position myself on the retracement back into this. I originally was using the bodies of this, but we don't need to expand that high. So I had my stop loss at this wick here. This is using CE of this OB, this wick here. I don't think we needed to trade any higher than this candle, to be fair. But I wanted to give myself a little bit of space here because we did have another fair value gap here. So I wanted to go the candle above this inverse here because we could still trade into this, which we might have, by a tick and then expand lower. As we created more confirmation to the downside, which would be told by closure below these down close candles here, I then trailed my stop to this swing high because we should not deliver into this, right? This is a swing point that respected a bearish PD array or two that we then got more confirmation in that state of delivery, which is downside. And then we caught expansion to this low here. I took this trade to the 930 lows because we had an hourly fair value gap below it, as well as we had more weakness on ES trading to newer lows. So I figured it'd probably be a low hanging fruit trade to these lows here. Caught a nice 25-point move on that trade there. Did get stopped at my original stop. I kept my stop here just because it was a 9-point stop loss. I took 8 contracts on this. I took 6 off here. And then I did get stopped out on the remainder 2 at this high here, right? So beautiful delivery, very quick delivery as well on this trade. As you can see, it delivered in, about 5 minutes here. If we took our entry on this candle and delivered here, yeah, 4 or 5 minutes on that trade there. So beautiful, beautiful move there, regardless of the conditions of the PA. Once again, it was a 5-minute SIBI, internal and external SMT, into a 1-minute inverse for a nice short setup to those 930 lows here. I got off stream shortly after that win. We were one and done on stream. I then continued to read price because I thought maybe there was more of a move to be had. The majority of our moves have been later into the morning for the past week or two. So I thought that maybe price was going to continue to deliver. I didn't like this pop back into the range on NQ because both YM and ES were seeking some more downside. So I thought that maybe this move back into the range on NQ was just to rate some sort of internal to continue lower, in which that is exactly what we did here. We had an internal raid right here, which provided a bearish SMC. Internal raid right here, we continued to reject this 5-minute SIBI. Price could not get above this morning. So price continued to reject this 5-minute SIBI. We had another bearish SMC. And then I then looked at the leg into this 5-minute SIBI, in which we had a 3-minute fair value gap here, okay? I thought that more downside was to be had on NQ because of the weakness on ES and YM. So then I looked for a short off of this 3-minute inverse, given the 5-minute SIBI, this bearish SMC. Still could use the previous bearish SMCs, although this one, in my opinion, did deliver to the objective, but a newer bearish SMC, 5-minute SIBI, 3-minute inverse. I took my setup here, looking like this. Closure below the inverse for the entry. I put my stop loss at the high of this OB, right? Price should not trade above this down or this up close candle. Stop loss above that. Then this delivered very beautifully to the low here. So I did get stopped out break even on this retracement here for us to continue lower. Boohoo, still caught 2 beautiful trades to the low hanging fruit profit target. And it was a great morning this morning. I'll pop up my executions here in a minute. As you can see here, trade on this 1-minute inverse for a short down to these lows here. took the majority of my partials, got stopped out at my stop loss, then a re-entry on that 3-minute inverse, delivery into this most recent low, and then the stop loss at break even. So two beautiful, beautiful trades. Very nice draw on liquidity this morning, although very, very choppy price action. Something that I would navigate a little bit more cautious, but still great delivery to put some risk on the table. Pretty good reads for me this morning, and also some decent execution. So that is the recap for this morning. If you guys took any of these trades, if you took it on stream with me, or if you took the second trade that I took, let me know in the comments. Did you guys like PA today? Did you guys not like PA today? Let me know what you think. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, checking out the videos. Make sure you check out the prop firms below. I now am partnered with Apex, Alpha, as well as my current partnership with MyFunded Futures. You can get the best available discount on all these prop firms if you use code BUTTERS. Right now, it is 80% off with Apex, 25% off with Alpha, and 5% with MyFunded Futures. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good rest of your day. Take care. Happy trading. Peace.